Hello everybody, it's me, your Mr. Truth, and in today's video, I wanted to make a brief scouting report and evaluation of Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Obviously put up a lot of great numbers this season at Miami, generating a lot of draft buzz and hype as potentially one of the first players to go in the draft to maybe a team like a Tennessee or New York or Cleveland, or a team that, is sort of struggling but, needs a good young and potential franchise quarterback. So Cam Ward is definitely in that discussion for top players and top quarterbacks. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it, going into Cameron Ward's upsides. Cam Ward has a pretty strong arm. He's able to gun the ball into spots that some quarterbacks cannot hit on the field, and this is evident, especially when, he's throwing it deep. He knows how to, layer the ball, not only layer the ball, but also put a lot of velocity and a lot of heat on that ball. And he's also good at switching sort of his speed when it comes to throwing. He can throw a touch, he can loft the ball, and he can really strong arm it in there. And he's really adept at throwing passes over the middle to wide receivers that are coming open. He shows great timing and anticipation throwing into windows over the middle of the field is what I'm trying to say. Also, his short and intermediate accuracy when throwing from within the pocket is definitely above average. He hits these passes way more often than not, and a lot of quarterbacks that are considered project QBs tend to lack, being able to throw to the intermediate portions of the field, and inconsistent accuracy, but he's able to get it there more often than not. He also displays fantastic layering into tighter passing windows. This is mainly thanks to his big arm and solid anticipation skill. Now, he also shows the capability to go through full field reads and progressions, frequently scanning his head from left to right when given adequate time to throw from in the pocket. This is the most important one to me. Is he, or his eyes moving? Is he making progressions? Is he reading the entire field and reading the coverage out? If so, then he's doing a great job. If not, then there's definitely a problem. Ward also keeps his eyes down the field when he breaks the pocket, almost never dropping his eyes and looking to run first. He uses his eyes to manipulate defenders at times, especially when he breaks contain out the pocket, where he will occasionally look one way to get a defender off balance and look in the other direction, and then fire the ball in another direction to a wide receiver out in open space. Also, Ward excels at extending plays. He's able to elude the defensive line to buy himself enough time, and his wide receivers, some time as well to get open. Ward is also a very clutch quarterback, as there were multiple games where Miami was down by double digits, like down by a bunch, a shit ton essentially, yet the team came back in the third and fourth quarter to win the game when it looked like all hope was lost, and he shows great leadership ability as well. Those were the upsides. That's a lot of positives, man. But there are fair few negatives. So let's get into the downsides of Cam Ward's game at quarterback. Now, I've said this sort of like buzz phrase or buzzword or whatever the hell it is, but I believe that Ward has a severe case of MPS, which is miracle play syndrome. Ward will sometimes run around outside the pocket for just an absurdly long duration of time instead of tucking the ball and running or just throwing the ball away. In addition to this, he's attempting to create this insane-looking miracle fucking play. He will occasionally throw an ill-advised, erratic on-the-run pass into a large crowd of defenders. We all know how this story ends. Don't need to go in much detail for that when you know how the fuck that goes. Ward also tends to drift and backpedal a bit in the pocket at times too. This is very, very prevalent when he's receiving a ton of time to throw, but nobody's getting particularly open. Now, if Ward ends up, failing in the NFL or falling off draft boards, these three downsides are going to be the reason why he either falls down the draft boards or becomes a draft bust in the NFL. This will be his undoing. Those three things I just listed will be his undoing in the NFL. Now, his accuracy and ball placement on the move in general, to me, from the film I watched, is pretty spotty and inconsistent. The ball frequently is thrown either low or just behind the wide receiver. Now, Ward has an awkward sort of janky looking delivery in throwing motion on the ball, which could possibly be the cause for some of his inaccuracy, not just on the move, but also from within the pocket as well. Sometimes he will miss from within the pocket, as every quarterback will. But I also have a concern, a bit of a hunch that this is going to lead to more batted passes in the NFL and defenders getting their hands on on the ball, as his arm slow on his passes is much, much lower than most quarterbacks in the NFL. He also tends to throw from different arm angles, with defenders closing in on him, which sort of causes the ball to come out flat and with a low trajectory, and you never want that. those were the main downsides of Cameron Ward's game at quarterback. Overall, Ward is one of those confusing players I've attempted to evaluate in this sort of quarterback draft class. Definitely a boom or bust prospect, in my opinion. And this is a guy who's either gonna become like a franchise star quarterback or is gonna be remembered for being a pretty bad player. Now, my overall grade for Cameron Ward, quarterback out of Miami, is going to be a 3 out of 5. And I have him graded as a late first round to early second round prospect at the NFL level in the NFL draft. Now, my NFL comparison for Cameron Ward would have to be Jordan Love. Sort of the way that, the arm talent, the sort of recklessness, but the ability to make amazing looking plays and the abilities to throw at different speeds and stuff like that, and read the field. Sort of reminds me a bit of a Jordan Love, almost like right on the dot. I think is like his ceiling, maybe up there with a guy like a Jordan Love who was like a franchise quarterback, but may have a bit of a turnover issue in the National Football League. Once again, this is a very polarizing player. A lot of people love Ward. A lot of people say that Ward's going to be a bust. I'm not particularly, I don't quite necessarily love Ward, but I don't think he's going to be a scrub. I think if he goes to the right organization, he's going to be, a good NFL quarterback. But if he goes to a trash team like Cleveland or, like Tennessee or New York, a team with no line, no weapons, no anything, then he's going to get killed in the NFL. And it mainly won't be his fault, but his bad tendencies will, be glaringly obvious at that level because it's the NFL. These teams are going to, do their due diligence to sort of research what you're bad at and evaluate what you're bad at, and they're going to try to key in on that, and they're going to try to shut you down by exploiting your weaknesses and forcing you to play to not your strengths, but your weaknesses. And it will not end well for Ward if he goes to a bad team that doesn't have the best weapons, doesn't have the best line, doesn't really have a great coaching staff or support system, or just not going to a good organization. Like if he goes to Cleveland or like the Giants, he's fucked. He's almost certainly fucked. There's no way I see him succeeding on a garbage team like that. He needs to go to a team that has a veteran quarterback who's like above the age of 33, 34, learn by that quarterback for a year or two, and then he can take over and then lead that team after that quarterback has either retired or has moved on to a different team. Because man, what I'm seeing is a player that is, I don't think, going to do very well on a shit team. But, with given time and given a good support system and organization that, believes in him being the future of the quarterback position for that team, then he's going to be A-okay. But going to Cleveland, going to New York, going to Tennessee, some garbage team that has nothing of value. Like the Titans, they have nothing. Like Tennessee, if they pick Ward at 1, it's not going to end well. And I'm not going to blame him for it because that's just such a shit organization. And I'm also, not going to blame him if he goes to New York or some other garbage team that has nothing there, because there's nothing there. There's nothing that would indicate that he would succeed with those teams, because his bad tendencies, are going to show up a lot, because he's going to be running for his life a lot on those fucking under those bad offensive lines. Like the Browns' offensive line when it comes to pass blocking was fucking atrocious. New York couldn't protect. Tennessee, they couldn't protect either. So just go one of these teams with the bad offensive lines with minimal to no weapons, and bad, not the greatest coaching staffs in the world. It's going to be a disaster if he goes to a really bad team. But if he goes to a team that's looking for a young quarterback to sort of turn into the next sort of Jordan Love or whatever, then they should take a chance on him in the late first round, or maybe even the mid first round, if they see value in picking him there. So that was my evaluation and scouting report on Miami quarterback Cameron Ward. Thank you all for watching. This has been Mr. Truth, and this was nothing but the truth.